Welcome. On this channel, I do unscripted, unedited videos about Linux programming and stuff. Most recently, I have been relearning C after having been away from it for 25 or more years. And I've been doing this by jumping from little tiny experiment to the next little tiny experiment. And I've kind of realized that it would probably be a lot more interesting for the viewers and myself if I was actually working on some project. You know, we get to watch it evolve then. And of course, I realized that probably the most interesting type of project for the largest group of people is some kind of game. And I actually kind of have had an idea percolating in the back of my head for quite a while. And so what I'm going to do in this video is kind of explain that idea, what the motivations are for it, and probably a little bit about how I'm going to attack it. It's a very big project. I likely will be working on it for years, or I will get distracted by something else and not be working on it for years. We'll see how it goes. But I am going to start by creating a directory called Space Captain. It's just a working title. We can change it at any time. And I am going to start by creating a README, and we're going to keep a few notes here as I'm talking. Okay, so we're making we're going to make Space Captain. We'll do. What is it? I'm going to describe this game as a blending of EVE Online, Dwarf Fortress. I'm going to have to turn off Minecraft. I'm going to have to turn off Copilot here. It's trying to LLM me into a, I don't know where. Okay, so a blending of EVE Online, Dwarf Fortress, and some Factorio. Okay, so let's Copilot disable. Okay, so I'll probably come back and reorganize this README later, but I want to touch on I don't want to go too in depth. I don't want to lock myself in too specifically, but I do want to touch on the basic idea of what this project is all about for me. First, and probably most important to say, is the game is not the important part to me. It is a tool for me to test out ideas. That's the most important part for me. I want to explore certain programming ideas, and this is the test bed through which I'm doing it. Now, I don't want to diminish the game. I actually do want to deliver a game that other people want to play. That is the entire purpose. But I may go down rabbit holes from time to time to explore technology ideas that I want to prove out for myself that may not actually be strictly the best thing for the game in terms of time. Hopefully I don't make it less enjoyable to play. First, a little description of what I think that the game is. Okay, you could think of it as a game with very minimal UI. It'll probably never have anything beyond a little bit of vector graphics, aka kind of the asteroid style. It is primarily going to be a game where you're running things from a HUD, kind of heads-up display type of information. It is going to have a couple of different modes. Of course, you're going to have the mode of the game where you're out piloting, you're captaining, is that a word? A spaceship. You're going to have a crew on your spaceship. That is a large part of the Dwarf Fortress element, is you set goals like in Dwarf Fortress, and your crew reacts to those goals that you have set. And so it's very much a roster management thing too. You have your crew to keep happy and to staff. What is the Factorio part? Well, of course, you're going to have the resource collection part, the let's go mine in space part. But there is going to be a tech tree that needs to be built up in the world. And that isn't ever done automatically anywhere. Different people will have to combine lesser resources together to make quantity, or to make those higher level technologies and resources, and then sell them, right? So everything has to bootstrap. It's also an economics experiment, right? And so everything is just the interactions of what people do. Did somebody go out and you don't have the raw resources to make any new technologies unless somebody actually goes out and explores and finds them, right? Okay, that's the basic idea of the game. Let's get a little into the technology stack. This is the part that's going to be unique, or a little more unique. One of my personal opinions is that the industry today does not make very good use of the hardware resources that we have available to us. I haven't done the math, but I'm assuming this, multi-core machine that I'm sitting in front of with, 128 gigs of RAM in it is something on the order of a couple thousand times faster than the machine that I had 25 years ago. More capable. I mean, just in storage and the amount of memory, and I mean, it's a couple thousand might be an exaggeration, but it's enormously more powerful. And yet, I very rarely ever feel like the software that we're using is really taking advantage of those resources. The only exception is games, and even there, most of the evolution in games seems to be on the GPU side and just riding the curve of the graphics cards becoming more powerful. So they're giving us, more and more beautiful displays, but the games themselves don't really seem to advance in terms of, game worlds get a little bit bigger, but they just really don't seem to be taking advantage of the fact that you have orders of magnitude more storage, and except for that they're using it for graphics, right? Anyway, I don't want to go too far down, complaining about that. I want to pull it back to the typical tech stack that we see these days. I see everything being horizontally scaled into oblivion across microservices that are way too narrowly defined. The overhead in this system seems to me at this point, to outweigh the benefit we're getting out of it. And so I'm going to take the extreme opposite with this particular project to see how far I can take it and be successful or not. This project will never run on anything but a single host, one single cloud host. The only exception to that is that it will back up its data. It will have probably just to S3 or some kind of block storage like that. But other than that, it's going to run on a single host. And that is going to define a lot about how I build the technology stack. I'm going to build, I don't know that I'm going to start this project in C. I don't know that it's going to stay in C. I might jump over to Zig at some point. I could also choose to jump over to Rust. I am going to be writing all of it at in a language, in a system that compiles down to machine code that has pretty low level of abstraction and a pretty direct control over memory management. Not only is my goal to run on a single host, because I think that the horizontally scaled gazillions of micro services architecture is wrong. I also want to take advantage of the fact that on a single host, I've removed all the network latencies to talk to the other services, et cetera, et cetera. I expect to get significantly higher performance out of this. And one way, of course, to continue to maximize that performance is having really good architecture and handle on how memory is being organized. That's I expect this game to get to the point where that matters, where cache, keeping things in the cache actually matters. Now, that a little bit depends on the fact of, I have no control over how many people ever come and play it, but what I will do is I will be able to stand up a test bed and run artificial clients against it and to prove out the architecture that way. So these are really, really big components of what it is that I want to do. It's also part of why C or maybe Zig probably makes the most sense for me down the road with this. I really want to control these things. I absolutely do agree with the idea that it's kind of a dumb idea for me to do it in C or Zig, where I don't really have the protections that I would get from Rust. But the honest truth is I just enjoy C the most right now, and so that's it's a personal project, and so I get to choose. Maybe a year or two down the road, maybe my opinion changes and I start to explore things. Now, I've been a little on the fence about exactly what the client-server nature of this looks like. I know that the long-term goal is that I intend to create a web client that is strictly just kind of a WebSockets connection, and it's really just to have a super easy delivery so that everybody has super easy access to it. But I do think in the early days I'm actually going to write it as a server and a separate client. That client will be a command line client. I really actually enjoy extremely well done command line applications. It probably will lean a little bit more towards an interactive REPL than a TUI type application, but we'll see. So early on, I'll be writing the server and a command line client, and at some point I will take that command line client and bring it to the web as a WASM kind of deployable, where hopefully most of the code stays pretty much the same. Now that client seems like it's a really good place for me to jump into Rust and do it, because I know that Rust has really good WASM support in general. So that's some of the technology stack. Let me think. What did I really didn't write much here in the README, and I'm trying to think of what I may have left out. So big summary of the game. You're captaining a ship, you have a crew, you have to manage the roster of the crew to captain the ship, and you have to manage the money and stuff to buy upgrades. Upgrades aren't available in the world unless somebody actually manufactures them. And what you're going to see me do in terms of the game design is a really, really thin slice of the whole thing top to bottom. Make it so that you can pilot a ship and dock at a space station and buy and sell an item and have a tech tree. It's going to start out with one or two resources, and it's going to have a tech tree with just one or two things in it that you can build. And then iron out the kinks in that system, and then start to iterate on it and then grow it out into a more interesting, more complex thing. On the technology side, on delivering the technology, I'm going to do exactly the same kind of approach. I'm going to do a slice all the way across the game, right? So I have a lot of problems to solve. I have some ideas about how to solve them. I don't necessarily want to go in depth here on those. I'll save those for future videos. But if I'm running on a single host, ideally I'm running essentially on a single process. How do I do deployments? How do I do a zero downtime deployment between if I have a running version of the game and I need to bring a new running version up? This is an online game. There might be, I mean, I hope someday there will be, you know, a couple thousand, 2,000 people connected to it. How do you do that deployment? Again, I have ideas. I don't want to necessarily dive into them here. How do I handle backups and reliability? Where do I draw the lines in terms of risk? Again, I have ideas. Don't really want to dive into them here, but the limitations I'm putting on myself are hard. I will not change these. It will exist on a single host, which I don't see as much of a limitation because, I mean, you can get 192 core, 2 terabyte hosts with 50 gigabit of network bandwidth. I'll never have, I mean, only if I wrote it in the most inefficient way would I ever be able to consume those resources. Serving up a game to a few thousand players, and a couple thousand, 2,000 people is probably the most I can hope for ever having with a crazy little indie game that's more or less text driven, maybe with some really basic vector type graphics in the future in the web client. I mean, you know, this is never going to be a mainstream kind of thing. It's always going to be very niche, and I'm never going to get to a situation. I should never have such poor performance that I get into a situation where I can't just run the whole thing on a single host. And as I think I mentioned a little bit back, the one exception is I'll probably back up to like S3 or some other block storage, just so that it's, you know, the goal is to make it the most resilient, the fastest performing I can on a single host. So part of that for me is, should it go down, I need to be able to stand it back up in a heartbeat. So let's say that, I mean, these are virtual hosts in a cloud that I'm going to be running on. Let's say that Amazon says, sorry, that instance just doesn't exist anymore. The EBS it was connected to just doesn't exist anymore, right? I still need to be able to stand it up within minutes. And of course, that means having, it changes the nature of the disaster recovery plan, but I should still be able to stand it up within 2 or 3 minutes of fingers on keyboard, right? So that is where I'm going with this. It's going to be an interesting little adventure. I'm going to be wandering all over the place. I still don't know C. I'm learning it, and so I'll make a whole bunch of mistakes. But at least anybody watching, I can refer them back to this video, and they'll have at least a vague idea of what we're doing. And I think I am going to say that is good, good for now. And I will, I will see you in the next video.